Hello and welcome back to our Flask video tutorial series. In this video we're going to be discovering how Flask can connect with HTML. Now let's have a look at what we have so far. I've defined three routes. Here is my root route, a route called home, and a route called profile with a variable name in it. Let's have a look at what they do. First of all, our root route will return hello world as specified over here. Our route home will return this is my home page, which is what we wanted. The last route should return you are on the name we specify. So if we specify /profile/Hussein, we're going to go you are on Hussein. If we specify you are on /profile/John, we'll get you are on John. Now let's have a look at these routes first of all, and notice that we're returning strings. When in fact, browsers will read HTML to render our web pages. So that's what we're aiming towards. Now what is HTML? You can discover in our video tutorial series on HTML and CSS. For now, we're going to discover how we can do this in Flask. Now before we go into that, why would we want strings? Well, strings let us do this, right? We can do concatenation and then essentially we can get a dynamic HTML page based on a name in our route. But we also want it in HTML. So what can we do? Well, Flask has the idea of templates, specifically the templating library called Jinja, which allows us basically to have HTML pages as well as room for dynamic content. Now, how do we get started with the templates? Well, first we need a directory called templates. Inside the directory, make a new file, and I'm going to call it index.html. And in this file, I'm going to just write some HTML. So, I'm going to write the heading hello world. Now to kind of render the HTML, we need a function called render template from the Flask module. And instead of returning the string, we render the template and we give it the name index.html. So now if we rerun our program, and let's go back to the home page, we get hello world. Right click, view page source, and this is exactly what the browser will read, which is why we get a nice bold font. Now this won't constitute a valid HTML document. If you've watched our HTML series, we know that all HTML documents need to be specified a doc type, it needs to be wrapped in HTML tags, you need to have a head and a body section. All that is detailed in our video series on HTML. I'm going to skip over the details and just copy and paste a template I have found from a website, this website over here, which will have our doc type, the HTML definition, the head and body tags. I'm going to remove these redundant tags. And in my body, I'm just going to bring back our hello world header. Let's get back over here. Nothing will change, except now if we view page source, this is exactly what the browser will read and will constitute valid HTML. Now, let's have a look at this problem. And I mentioned earlier that we can have dynamic web pages with Jinja. What does that mean exactly? Well, let's try to solve this problem of trying to render the HTML page that has a dynamic you are on X. To do that, let's make a new template. Let's call it names.html. Let's copy and paste exactly what we get from here. So instead of returning this string, we're going to return render template names.html. Now, I want to pass in this variable into my template because that's what I want to do. I want to say instead of hello world, I want to write you are on whatever that name variable is. To do that, you pass in the name variable as an argument. You give the argument a name, let's call it names for now, and we set it equal to name. This name is this argument, is this parameter variable, and this names is the name of this variable. Now we need to refer to it over here. So instead of underscore, we write double curly braces and the name of the argument. or the name of the parameter. So in this case, names. If I've called it X in my template, I put X. Okay, now let's have a refresh of our page. Of course, we need to run our page again. Refresh, and let's go to slash profile slash Hussein. And there we go. You are on Hussein. Let's change it to John. You are on John. To illustrate the point more, let's wrap it around in H1 tags. And there we go. You are on John. Let's have a look at the page source. And you can see this Hussein is what's being rendered by the browser. What's happening in detail? Well, in our render template function, we pass in the parameter name, and in our template, we render the name over here. This syntax is Jinja syntax, not HTML syntax, it's Jinja syntax. It's the templating engine that Flask uses. There are further constructs in Jinja, such as if statements and for loops, which we'll discover in later videos. For now, it's important to understand the fundamental principles. Thank you for watching this video.